Hello, lovely people of the world. My name is Calico, captain of the Dreadnoughty, purveyor of fine synthetic dreadlocks, braids, and other fun hair accessories. And I had a great idea for a video to bring to you today for your entertainment and enlightenment. I was perusing that strange and wonderful little bootleg dark corner of the interweb known as Wish to make sure that none of my or any of the other dread makers' customer photos had been pilfered for nefarious purposes. It's a very common practice to steal product images from handmade crafters on Etsy and badly recolor them and try to pass off very subpar versions as the authentic thing. And luckily, to my surprise and amazement, this has not been the case for our industry as of yet. And I was also surprised because people typically like to use this service because they think they're going to be getting a much better deal or a much cheaper price for a knocked off product. And this actually wasn't the case. The dreads are not very cheap on there, and I'm going to let you guys decide as we do a magical blind unboxing video today if it's worth it. So we're gonna, for the sake of science, have some control variables. Okay, all of these options. We have the handmade from me. We have store-bought, which are the closest that I was able to find to something that would approximate a natural crochet texture. There's a lot of they kind of look like tubes. They're like coiled, that have been floating around in beauty stores kind of for a while, that are the machined dreadlocks. They're almost more like crinoline. They're kind of springy, so that doesn't really come close. They also have some getting better all the time approximations to the smooth sealed texture. But for the sake of science, these are all 18 to 20 inch, what would be our regular long, and pencil gauge. And then, yeah, we have a little sample pack ordered from Wish. So let me give you the price breakdown first, so you can keep that in mind as we're opening these and holding them side by side. Okay, so if you would like to purchase one of these fine 20 packs from yours truly, you can see we have a ridiculous number of colors available, and any of these can be customized if these aren't the length and style that you're looking for. I just try to have like one of each color in stock at any given time. Of this, our most popular morph, which is the pencil thin long. So people can mix and match and combine colors and get them on short notice if need be. So these you can get 20 for $35, which includes shipping, domestic, US. So that brings it to a unit price of about $1.75 per dread. The Wish price ended up being $3.90 plus $4 of shipping, and that was kind of like the hot special. That was sort of the average range. There are even more expensive versions of these. So that brings it to $1.60 a unit. Pretty on par considering, and also you're going to be waiting a whole lot longer to receive those. These took about a full month to get here for me. And the store-bought ones were actually kind of a steal. They came in double-ended format. I apologize, they didn't have this texture in single-ended for comparison, but it's pretty much the same. And those were $8 for a pack of 20, so about 40 cents each. So we're going to find out why in a minute. Alright, so control for, well, not control, but the standard, the original, best, right? The handmade. I'll hold them up for your consideration. They are very soft, very lightweight. Each one of the 20 packs ends up being something like 2.5 to 3 ounces. So the main thing to consider when you are doing a full head install, if you're trying to avoid fatigue on your scalp and tension bumps, that's a term a lot of people mistake it for, like a rash or an allergic reaction. Tension bumps, fun science fact, actually come from the pulling, which has to do with both the weight and the tightness with which they're installed. And you can get tension bumps from any sort of weave or braid in install or dreadlock install. So the only way, if you know that you're sensitive to that, to kind of mitigate it, is to minimize the weight if possible. So for your first set, you might not want to go with the big, heavy, Sharpie thick or super long. You know, keep it maybe a bit shorter. Long is pretty standard. 18 to 20 inches brings it about chest length, as you can see. And that seems to get the job done for most people, and that's why we keep such a wide variety in stock. If you want to go ahead and get a small quantity just to start out with and do a partial and see if you like them. So here we go, and we'll hold them up next to each other, but just to give you an idea of what they look like, how they move. The crocheted style is also very easy to maintain if they get soiled or sweaty, you know. They're very easy to freshen up just by dunking in boiling water. So there's the first. And now we're going to jump to the twins. I'm excited. I think this is pretty fun time to be alive, you know, to have all of these options. So let's see what we get. Oh my. It's a bit of an odor just opening these up. Oh, okay. Ooh. Uh-oh. So here's our 5-pack. They're sticking together kind of Velcro-y right off the bat. So you can see the ends are secured off with elastics. One problem with that is these will undoubtedly break eventually. Rubber does tend to deteriorate over time, so depending on what the composition of these elastics are, you know, don't count on that being permanent necessarily. Ours are all tied off, as you can see. I have gotten complaints before that the loops are small. This is intentional, right? You don't necessarily want big loops when you're doing these installs, because whether you're going just onto your hair or onto a protective braid cornrow kind of base, you're really going to want to use a latch hook, and we do sell install kits that have nice quality elastic bands as well as latch hooks. So to get a realistic looking install, you know, you're going to want the loops to be as low profile as possible. So there you can see these loops with their elastics. They're not moving. They're like very hard, making kind of a crinkly sound. They're super rough. It's like a Brillo pad. They, my guess is that they were made with something more of like a felting technique. Felting is a bit different than palm rolling. Palm rolling tends to leave the dread still very tactile, very soft. These are not at all. They don't have a lot of give. They're kind of springy if you squeeze them in a way that is a little unsettling. They really feel like something like a sponge. And here you can see the tips, pretty much the same. Just the regular. We do also offer wispy ends, which is leaving them much farther up to be loose and soft and flowy. That's a customization that you can request, and we also do bob-ended if you would prefer for it to not be tapered and have a unified look all the way through. These ones are pretty tapered, I guess, I would say. Wow. Okay, and now let's look at the store-bought ones. Extremely natural texture. The picture showed them as single-ended. It said single-ended install with crochet hook. I don't know if you can see this little icon right there, but they're actually double-ended. So you can do kind of a similar install if you have a cornrow base. Otherwise, for braiding, you kind of just braid down one side. So it's not a big deal. People ask frequently asked questions, what's the difference between double and single-ended? I usually say it comes down to personal preference. Double-ended tend to be easier for self-installs because it goes faster, and you don't necessarily have to use a latch hook. Single-ended tends to lay a little bit more naturally, especially if you're going for a thicker gauge. But it comes down to personal preference, and if you order custom from us, we can easily do a combination of the two. Some people like to order half double-ended so they can quickly get through their base layers towards the neck, and then finish off with single-ended on the top to get the best of both worlds. But these you can see, double-ended. They're not as stiff as the Wish ones, but they still have that springy Brillo feeling. They're very much like, what would you say, like a sponge from the store, like those green ones, those buffer kind of sponges. They look a little bit more, do they look more natural than the Wish? I don't know, I guess I'll let you be the judge. Here you can see all the same color. Theoretically the same style. Okay. These at least have some motion to them. These are very stiff, and these are very whiplash. So 40 cents each end, $1.60 each end, and $1.75 each end. These you can get instantly from the store. I don't know if they have similar brands available on Amazon. I didn't really compare Amazon, but you have to be careful because a lot of times Amazon and any of those other dropshipping suppliers are actually sourcing from exactly the same factories, exactly the same places. So you're getting that same, you know, them using the same sort of stock photos is a pretty dead giveaway that they're sourcing from the same type of places. So that's fine if that's what you're looking to get. But I would say, considering that the price is very much the same, yeah, the obvious winner in this for weight, these also are noticeably lighter than these in my hand. We could bust out the scale, but these are probably about 4 ounces, I would say, which it's not that much more, but it's something to consider if you are being careful about tension bumps. But fairly natural looking, just horrible feeling. These feel infinitely better. They're smooth, they're soft, and I will explain why with a little bit more. Oh, they're like sticking to me like Velcro. Oh, Wish, no. I'll explain a little bit more science, because I get these type of questions a lot as well. So, all synth threads are made with Kanekalon. There are different gauges or grades of Kanekalon, which does have to do with the gauge of the individual follicles. Kanekalon is a monocrylic monofilament, so it's an extruded plastic strand, and the thickness that each strand is extruded at affects the weight, and it also affects kind of the smoothness. There's different varieties, like Kanekalon, which is typically used for wigs. There's Hyperlon, which is used a lot for wigs. They are heavier and sleeker. They have more anti-tangle properties, which makes them not really great for dreading because you kind of want them to interlock and tangle. That's the point of dreads. So really great for braiding and not so good for dreading. And a thing to always keep in mind when you're purchasing material is the overwhelming trend in the industry right now is for braiding hair. That's why you see so much more variety in things like the ombre colors, because that's what the Chinese suppliers really believe that everybody wants. And they don't keep track of the restock quite intently enough to gauge whether that's what's actually selling or not. There's not a lot of communication between the stores necessarily and their restock procedures and the actual manufacturers back in China. So it's a lot of what you're going to find at the store is called pre-stretched or pre-tapered, and that's for braiding purposes. That makes it really pretty annoying to try to dread. Also, the high heat can't be very well dreaded. It ends up it's possible that's what they utilize. I can't tell just by the feel, but this might actually be a high heat variety of hair We could look at it under a microscope. I don't have one right now. But that might explain why it's heavier, thicker, and rougher like that. Each strand might actually be thicker. So this is a pack of the high quality, what is sometimes called dippable Kanekalon that we get. It's very soft. It's the exact, it's the most exact chemical copy that we can get to natural hair while still meeting all of the appropriate ANSI fire resistance codes. Because braiding hair is intended for direct contact with the scalp, and for prolonged wear and use, there are additional fire code standards that go with the product to make sure that if they're ever ignited, the flame won't travel up and catch your whole head on fire and make you unable to disengage from the product and suffer injury, of course. So that is why if you ignite Kanekalon, it will char but not burn. And there's different levels. I won't get into super technical about it, but it's something like a cotton or natural fiber is going to immediately burn. And some natural things like wool and then synthetics are designed to char instead of igniting. So all Kanekalon adheres to that standard. It does it kind of in different ways. This will char. This kind, the high heat, kind of just melts. And each strand is a little bit thicker when it's extruded. They come in a much more vibrant variety of colors, which is why a lot of makers utilize them. And they might mix them with dippable Kanekalon to get both characteristics that are desirable. When you get dreadlocks from a lot of the Russian shops or Eastern European, because the sourcing is just different, they have access pretty much to this. We have local suppliers here. We're in Metro Detroit, so we have really good weave shops, and this is the kind of high quality product that we can just walk in and get. I buy mine by the case, as you can see. Yeah, so a lot of the European makers may not have as ready of access, especially since diversity here is kind of not a thing. So really the only option is to buy online. We have a couple of ports that import large quantities of this for distribution. So that's an explanation of why you see that so much. And there's nothing wrong with it, and it's nothing against them, of course. You can still create a really nice dreadlock. It's just going to be a lot stiffer, a lot scratchier, and a lot heavier. But you can get some pretty rockin' colors. We utilize this exclusively for braiding. So I make a lot of fun little accent kits, because these are perfectly fine to install along with the dreads. And we have a really fun new option. Go grab one, show you up close. I just made these. Sorry, I'm a little bit proud mom of these right now. This is a hybrid double-ended dread, so that it has dread on one side and braid on the other. When you go to install it, you just braid down the dreaded side, so you don't have to braid into an existing braid. That's really helpful when you're dealing with fine hair, or you're dealing with temporary install, partial, accent, things like that. So these are also pencil thin, and this is the wispy ends that I was talking about, loose ends. That's kind of a fun, naturalistic look, especially for people who are supplementing natural dreads that they already have finished off like that. So you might go for double-ended. I've seen this done by several different customers where they enhance their overall volume by using the double-ended. So this is our Viking style boho braid dread combination. So I just thought I'd show those off real quick. I hope this answers maybe some questions. If any of you are interested in pursuing synthetic dreadlocks to be a fun addition to your hair fashion look, hopefully there was some good information in there. I hope this was a bit of a cautionary tale, at least money-wise, for why you probably don't want to go and look into the Wish or Amazon dread options, just because they haven't figured out how to make it cheap enough to really even justify competing against the handmade makers. And most of the other sellers that you're going to find online will probably be similar in their unit price. I think we're pretty mid-range right now. I haven't really looked at what other prices are like right now, but you're probably going to be in a similar range, somewhere between $1.50, $2.50 per dread of this size. So there's really no reason not to go with a handmade option. Also, there's the whole ethical consideration of the less than ideal human cost of the people who are having to work in those warehouses. Now, I'm not claiming by any stretch that the Kanekalon manufacturers are living in the lap of luxury. I haven't been able to make a trip myself, although I would like to check out what some of the manufacturing facilities are actually like. Ethics in hair is a big discussion that we could have. I like to think that offering vegan options or synthetic options, one, they're more hygienic and durable, and two, having an alternative to inhumanely farmed human hair, like the Brazilian extension hair that you get at a typical weave shop. It's not Brazilian. It's not from Brazil, not even close. It's harvested in India and from people who are at serious economic disadvantage, and I just don't agree with those practices, so I've always tried to offer the highest quality and most affordable alternative to that possible, and it gives me great joy to see customer photos and people who are getting a lot of value out of the product, and it's enhancing, their lives, their enjoyment, their feeling of being able to express themselves. So if those are your values as well, and this is a product that you would like to check out, then hit us up. Our company is called Dreadnoughty, like the boat, and you can find us on Etsy. I'll put the links below. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me and going down this rabbit hole of e-commerce for a fun exploration of the different available synthetic dreadlock styles. Thanks. Have a great day.